And I don't know. I just feel like this is a great time. This is a perfect example of why you can't trust mainstream. I'm not saying that their you can't use their base. You know, I got this damn pimple on my forehead. You can't use like their grounded research and information as like a base. But you can't trust everything that comes out in it. You just can't. Like, it's impossible. Because when you do, you know what I mean? Like, you're leaving yourself to all the blind spots. And then again, we know the word conspiracy was curated by the CIA to quell all the people that thought there was a conspiracy around JFK. They literally made it an embedded command where when you hear that word, you automatically get triggered. So it's easy to sweep everything under that label, and once they put that out there, people turn it off. But if you're telling me that this Epstein stuff isn't the biggest slap in the face to everybody, you're bugging. I mean, you got things from Roswell to JFK to Martin Luther King to even Malcolm X to the Tuskegee Airmen to the Gulf of Tonkin, the Bay of Pigs. You got the sinking of Lusitania. You have, in some retrospects, Pearl Harbor. You have even down to just monolithic structures like the Great Pyramids of Giza or Angkor Wat and the Stegosaurus. I personally seen that myself. There's a Stegosaurus in the stone, but we didn't discover dinosaurs till like 500 years later. So how did that civilization know about it? Angkor Wat was built, I think, in 900 AD or 1100 AD, because I think it's almost 1,000. I know it's almost 1,000 years old. We didn't discover dinosaurs until centuries later. Why is it in that stone? There's just so many questions that are left unanswered. And you could even go to like Nikola Tesla. It doesn't matter the industry. You can go to AIDS, Magic Johnson. He's still with us, but how? You know what I mean? And then one will do the argument, well, he had HIV, not the serious thing, so he can last longer with that. Again, that's all. Again, they will do their best to cover up stories in any industry that it is. Politics is just the biggest one. And to me, it's the most important one because it's literally the thing that most people still at this point, I would think consciousness has elevated a little bit where it's become a little bit more important. But at the same time, most people don't care about it. You know what I mean? So, to me, although most people don't care about it, sorry, I got distracted. Although most people don't care about it, it's still the one thing that rules your life. It controls your life. It sets the laws for everything that we do. So I think that it's very important to pay attention to. But these Epstein files is just, it's just ridiculous. And this is why, like, I'm telling you, I remember during 2016 when Trump first was getting elected, I was called a Trumpster. I was called a Trumpster from family. And that's just because I still think logically he was the better choice during that time. I still think logically he was the better choice in the last election. But that doesn't mean I'm on his side. You know what I mean? I could just look at it objectively and be like, well, look at these two people. Both of them are people I wouldn't prefer. But he's the lesser of two evil, as they say. So it's like, now I'm forced to choose the lesser of the two evils instead of the person I would rather. It is what it is. That's the world we live in. But that doesn't mean I'm a Trumpster. Now, I would say that this whole situation is now showing that the Republicans are just as bad as the Democrats. Because there are people that will still sit here and say, well, I don't think Trump is involved. I know Trump isn't involved. When this TV turns off, you have no idea what I am doing when this thing turns off. You don't know me. Just like you don't know them. Just like you don't know celebrities. Just like you don't know any of these people. You don't know. That is a fact. You don't know. Only the people involved and only the people that are close to them will have an idea. You can be with your wife or husband for years and still not know that they have a secret life. You don't know a person. So, with that being said, when Republicans sit there and defend Donald Trump, I'm not even going to say Republicans, I'll say when the cult of MAGA sits there and defends Donald Trump, you have to understand that they are now, those were the people that would sit there and say the Democrats were this, that, and logically, you can sit there and align with a Republican because they usually use logic in their approaches, because that's kind of like the premise of their whole thing. Now, where the logic fails is when the logic is presented and you still sit there and you're like, no, I still don't believe it. That's when you have to now call yourself out, just like you've been calling, you have to call yourself out just like you've been calling the Democrats out. Because now you are no better than the Democrats you've been condemning this entire time. You understand what I'm saying? Like, you have to look at the situation objectively. If you don't do that, then you're just as bad as the other side that you've been condemning. And right now, we're getting a clear example of that. A lot of people are still very upset. But if you're the one defending this guy, especially with connections as close as he has to the accused, come on, like, let's be real here. Maybe he's not in bed with it, and maybe he's just trying to protect somebody and he's stuck in between a rock and a hard place. But with the history that man had, you can't take him off the table as a suspect. It's impossible. You can't do it. You can't do it. And I'm talking about it as a suspect, as one of the ones who possibly, gave the okay for 2019. You know what I mean? I'm not saying he went that far, but I'm saying it's a possibility. I wouldn't be surprised if years later we found out, yeah, he was part of it. Would not be surprised. So you gotta look at this situation objectively and not fall on either paradigm. Once you fall on one of the paradigms, you're just as bad as the other side. You gotta stay neutral, or at least close to the middle as possible. Why? Because of situations like this. For them to sit there and say there's no Epstein list, knowing the relationship that this guy had with this man. I was watching a CoffeeZilla video, and he was saying that as Trump was saying that it's fake news and it was created by Obama, Epstein's neighbor is supposed to be standing right next to him, laughing. Now, I haven't done my own research on that. I don't know if that's to be true, but CoffeeZilla has made a brand on being an investigator, an alternative journalist, and he's kind of gotten some of the biggest people, SBF, Sam Bankman-Fried. He was literally, I would argue, he was part of the reason that man went down. He ended up on the Joe Rogan podcast and all this stuff after. So I would say that his work is credible. He literally was like, this is the guy, this is Epstein's neighbor, and they've been friends or whatever. As Trump on screen is talking about getting rid of, why are we talking about this? Not in the room where he went at the journalist and saying, well, why are we still talking about this? I'm talking about a post interview where he was talking about it, and there was a guy standing next to him. That guy is supposed to be Jeffrey Epstein's neighbor. It's like, come on, this is not even real life anymore. It's not. This is the world we live in. It's the world we've been living in. But in this information age, it's now just getting more aware to the people. They can't use the same tactics that they used in the past. But at the end of the day, they've indoctrinated us so much that, again, because we have to worry about survival, we can't worry about the little things. So a lot of people don't care about this. Possibly on the top 10 most wanted men in history. I'm talking about in categories of people like Hitler, probably Genghis Khan, Ted Kaczynski. I don't know if he's on their level, but he's up there. Epstein's got to be in that category. So yes, we are still talking about it because there's no closure to the situation. There's no finish, there's no finish line that we saw and crossed. The people that are involved are still out there, meaning there's a threat still out there, meaning we have to be concerned. I don't know, that's just my take on it. It's just very, it's just funny how people will look at this. I wonder if the people that called me Trumpsters look at me saying this will now say, well, he flip-flopped because he can see that Trump isn't the person that he is. No, I've been seeing this from the beginning. I'm just saying during the time when y'all were ridiculing him, y'all were really ODing. You know what I mean? Look at what they did to Andrew Cuomo. Andrew Cuomo during COVID was the savior. Now, depending on who you are, if you believe in the ventilation theory or not, you have your thoughts about him. And I'll be honest with you, the ventilators that was diabolical. But anybody in the medical industry and anybody that believes mainstream will tell you otherwise. However, it is what it is. From a general point of view, mainstream media has painted that man to be a saint. Just 1 year later, literally 1 year later, he was the villain of all villains because of what he did to some female. That hasn't even been proven. As far as I know, it's alleged. So, yeah, we're in a time where the TV will say jump and COVID will tell you how high people would jump. But I digress on that. You just got to do your own diligence. You got to do your own research. And I remember even one time, I told my folks that I watched the Trump rally. And they was like, why did you watch the Trump rally? And someone was like, well, I heard one of the late night talk shows says he had to watch the Trump rally. And then somebody else in the room was like, yeah, but that's their job to watch the Trump rally so they can tell us. And I was like, well, what do you mean it's their job? It's your job too. You got to take all truth and then come up with your own assessment of what the situation is. This is not just, you're not just going to allow people to do work for you. You got to do your work yourself. Otherwise, you'll be exactly in the situation that you're in. When you're on either extreme of any paradigm in any duality in life, you got to recenter, come back, and reevaluate what you're doing, what you're thinking. Look at all of the objective facts. Now, you will have to connect dots. And if you're not a dot connector, I understand. All you have is the face value. But if you don't even do the research, you won't have a chance at connecting any dots. That's all I'm saying. It's your boy Chris Jack, Canvas Nomad here. If you got this far in the video, like, comment, subscribe. You, my friend, I'll certainly appreciate it. Peace.